This is crazy. So I just walked into a Walmart. This right here used to be glass, and in the middle glass. And they used to have games on all of these. Look how it has become now. Digital media is on the rise. There's no games there.
Hello everyone, this is Magbo Gaming here, back at Angry Guy's channel. I hope you're all doing well. And I have a big passion about physical media out there. Because honestly, this topic, concerns me a lot. Because I'm a big physical collector. I have over 600 to 700 physical games in my collection overall. And I feel that with the Nintendo Switch 2, with the key cards, but even before that, the Xbox Series X, most of the games are not being printed anymore. Like in physical releases, they're mostly just gonna stick to digital. That's what I've been hearing as well. I don't own an Xbox, so I'm not an expert at that topic, but you get the idea. Anyways, before we get started with the commentary, be sure to check out Angry Guy at Rumble, because here there is so much censorship, and in Rumble there is no censorship whatsoever, or barely whatsoever. And over there, you can express yourself more freely compared to YouTube. YouTube's become the censor station, so be sure to check him out at Rumble right there. Also, check out his Angry Crypto Academy. Do not let people convince you that you will own nothing and be happy. Angry Guy's Crypto Academy will teach you how to day trade, how to sell crypto, how to buy crypto, how to get into knowing which coins you best to invest in and why you should invest them. And you can own that asset if you put it in a digital ledger that only you know the key and everything. So as long as no one else knows the key, you have complete control of your asset. So you can check out Angry Crypto Academy if you want to learn more about that. Anyways, let's get on to the commentary. This video is from a user called Modern Vintage Gamer. I'm gonna be commentating part of the video. This is the whole thing that comes to show that you will own nothing and be happy. You will have an illusion of you owning physical games, but you really are not owning anything physical because there's nothing on the cartridge, there's nothing on the disc, or just a portion of it is on the disc, and then you need to rely on an internet connection to get the rest. So yeah, let's see what this guy has to say, shall we?
Have you ever wondered what the common theme between these three physical games are? The answer is they are not physical games at all. They're physical products, and there is a difference. In other words, we're talking about a piece of plastic that contains some form of entitlement for us, the customer, to be granted a license to download and play.
Look at all this that is listed below. It was never this long before in older consoles, right? It tells you like what legal rights you have to playing this particular game that you purchase and what you are not able to do as well. So yeah, it's like a heads up pretty much on all this, a disclaimer.
Games, but that entitlement can be revoked at any time. Now, of course, it's unlikely that would ever happen to most games, but it does happen. We have seen games get revoked. And how do I know this? Well, let's take a look at another physical game that I own, Concord. You can't play this anymore. Sony decided it would just be best to abandon the game rather than to spend the time and money to fix it and make it a better game. And this is the thing that I want to talk about today, guys.
And I remember Concord being a big waste of money when not a lot of people are playing. I'm like, let's just pull the plug on this. We're not going to use Concord anymore. And now any physical copies you get is like super expensive, but yet you cannot play online or play barely at all. Because I think that it's relying on an internet connection. It's like a multiplayer game, right?
Physical games are dying, and we have to start being serious about what's going on in the industry. Now, these so-called physical products that are pretty much nothing but an entitlement to download and play these games is a worrying trend. And unfortunately, it's not anything that is going away or it's a fad. It's something that's going to continue to get worse over time. And I'm here to tell you guys, I am not a fan of this trend at all. In fact, I've been very much against this type of, release pretty much since the beginning. I can think about the days of Half-Life 2 releasing on Steam when people bought Half-Life 2 were unable to play the game. They couldn't play Half-Life 2 because
I think that the PC and Steam were the first ones to actually invented this whole thing where you get a normal edition of a game, or you get the extra edition with a lot more stuff, you get plus DLCs, or in order for you to download certain content or updates and stuff in order to play the game. I think that they were the first ones to invent this whole thing, and then they eventually passed it on to the consoles.
They had to connect to the internet in order to download the remaining proportion of the game. And even though Half-Life 2 came on 6 CDs, in fact, I have my version right here, I was unable to play the game unless I had an internet connection, and back in those days, required a modem connection in order to download the Valve Steam launcher and various other parts of the game in order to play it.
Yeah, and most people's internet speed were very slow at the time. That's why I always support physical games. I always support like games completely on the cartridge or the disc. I support offline gaming, single player experience, or multiplayer experience locally. I will always support that.
This is crazy. So I just walked into a Walmart. This right here used to be glass, and in the middle glass. And they used to have games on all of these. Look how it has become now. Digital media is on the rise. There's no games there. No games here. A little bit of games here, and a lot of them are going on clearance. A lot of the games are on clearance, and empty shelves on the bottom. And then there's games here, and then a lot of them are on clearance, and a lot of them are sold. And then there's used to be more games here, and they took it out to put toys. And then the same thing here, as you can see, empty shelves, and a lot of clearance. Same thing here. All the games on the bottom, I guess they're gone. They put controllers. But that's all clearance. A lot of clearance. A lot of games are gone. So sad how game is becoming digital.
And this was really my first kind of, irritation when it came to all things related to DRM. Now, unfortunately, it's 2025, and we have to come to the realization that physical games are almost dead. And I hate to say it because I'm someone that has been a big fan of physical media for many years, but what I'm seeing in the industry right now with the various kind of ways that publishers are offering up a physical product of something which is not physical at all other than a piece of plastic with some type of entitlement for you to download this game off their servers is almost something that I would consider disingenuous. And I think it's really no different than just downloading these games digitally, because in some instances, it's easier just to have a digital download of a game because it's at least tied to your account. And as long as the hardware maker is in business and they're continuing to provide hardware and you have an account that is tied to that hardware, then in theory, for all intents and purposes, your game should carry forward with you. And we have definitely...
Yeah, so a lot of digital games, they are tied to your account. I remember that the exception would be the Wii and the DSi, for example, is actually tied to the console and not the account. And the thing is that if anything ever happens to your consoles in the future, if they break down and whatever, you have no way to recover that game, honestly. So I prefer it being tied to an account in this case, because as long as you are doing everything well in your account, you don't get suspended, well, you're always going to keep the games, right? There are some games that are taken down, unfortunately, and if you don't already have it in the console to play offline, well, you won't be able to download it ever again, or if you ever delete it, or something happens to it. So, yeah, it's the same that applies to the physical cartridges and the physical disc. If something happens to the physical disc and the physical cartridges and whatever, if it breaks down, then you pretty much lost that thing as well. So logic can be applied to all that stuff, whether it be physical or digital. The problem is that it's ownership. That's the thing. You own the account, you own the game. If you own something, you are fully responsible for maintaining it. If you have someone else own it for you, the company is responsible for having your games in your account. And if anything happens, you could try to call them up and they could try to fix your issue. If you own something and you lose something, it's completely your responsibility to maintain it. So there are two ways of one coin, one over the other. I'm always going to support ownership. I'm always going to support like being responsible of my own stuff, because we as an adult are responsible for whatever we own pretty much. And I would have it no other way. I would rather be more independent there and not be dependent on a company, of course.
Seen that with the Nintendo Switch 2, with your Nintendo account. We've seen that with Sony PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and we've seen it with Xbox. Now, although you could say this is a good thing that these hardware makers are providing you with, this is really something that they have to do. They have to offer you a way to play your existing library on your current hardware. And this is obviously what Xbox is trying to do with their push into handhelds. Sony is doing obviously with the PS4 and the PS5 and the Nintendo Switch 1 and Nintendo Switch 2. But where does that leave physical games? And that is the kind of part that I want to talk about. Physical games, as I mentioned, are slowly dying off. Of course, there are outliers, there are exceptions. Companies like CD Projekt Red, which incidentally own GOG, which is very big on game preservation, which is not a coincidence. It's something that they are very much interested in preserving their entire...
If only every other gaming company are like CD Projekt Red and Limited Run that really wants to maintain a physical cartridge for people to own so they don't have to depend on the companies in order to maintain their game and being able to have access to play the game. Because honestly, if they don't do that, because sometimes when content does not fit in one disc, you make multiple discs, so the continuation of that game can go on to the next one and the next one, and then you make a way when you're finished with one disc, you pass on to the next, and it's still physical releases that you own pretty much.
Of games, and as much as they possibly can, it's no coincidence that they offer Cyberpunk 2077 on 2 discs on the Xbox as the complete version. This is something that not even Microsoft themselves offer up. They don't offer physical games for their products, and they haven't since Gears of War 5, I believe, in 2019. If you take a look at Microsoft or Xbox's releases since then, I don't believe there is any game that they've released that has the full game on disc. And trust me, I own them. I own Indiana Jones. This game released at the end of last year. It's not the full game on disc. It requires a mandatory download. In fact, I believe it's only a small portion of the game on disc, and they are very clear in the fine print about what you need to do in order to play this game. A game such as...
And like I said, it's no longer about you popping in the game and just playing it right off the bat. No, you have to go through a long download process because they cannot even bother to make multiple discs and put the entire game on multiple discs. If it doesn't fit on one disc, well, that's what you do. That's what PlayStation 1 did back in the day. Of course, back then, there was no actual stable internet. There was no digital games back then. It was all physical. It doesn't matter. If people want physical game, give them that option.
Starfield, which I enjoyed my time with Starfield, I own the Collector's Edition. That's a code in a box. Even though the Collector's Edition itself was kind of cool, it doesn't come with the full game. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, another game that I'm a big fan of. I totally get into dad mode when I play Flight Simulator, big fan of that game. Does not come with a physical version. And this is obviously very well documented as it needs to stream its assets off the cloud. Another game, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered that released earlier in 2025, does not even have a physical version available. Doom: The Dark Ages on the PlayStation 5 is not the complete version on disc. Microsoft has seemingly abandoned physical games in favor of digital download.
Yeah, and something I want to point out, now that you don't own nothing and be happy. Yeah, when Nintendo started with the whole game key card thing, now we're seeing like other companies follow. Even though Nintendo wasn't officially the first one that comes with like digital on the, on a code or whatever, or on a key card. But the industry itself were adapting to it already. And then Nintendo's like, oh, let's do it. And now everyone else will follow because it's going to become industry standard. It's going to put the nail in the coffin because everyone more pays attention to Nintendo, right? So physical media was already dying way before the Switch 2. But the Switch 2 with their game key card, it seems like they put a nail on a coffin right there. The final nail on the coffin that will definitely make it like the new normal pretty much. That now more and more games are going to come in a key card, especially for third parties. Even though their first parties are still going to be on the cartridge for now. But things can change and you just don't know. So yeah, Nintendo's going to help destroy physical media. It's gonna help finish it off pretty much. That's crazy. You're not gonna own nothing. You're gonna own nothing and be happy. But you know what you could actually own and it could be valuable for you in the future? Yeah, here's the little thing.
Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now.
Aside, we're slowly starting to see other publishers that don't have the complete editions on disc. Ubisoft is a great example. Just this year, Assassin's Creed Shadows was famously criticized for not having the complete game on disc that required a mandatory internet download in order to complete its installation. Last year, I picked up Star Wars Outlaws. Again, on the back of the box and on the front, it is required to have an internet connection to download and complete the installation and play the game. Now, you may be wondering, well, what about the Blu-ray limitations of these games? Do they exceed the capacity? Well, in some instances that could be true, but in the case of a game such as Star Wars Outlaws, which is a 54 gigabyte download, the capacity of a Blu-ray disc on the Sony PlayStation 5 is 100 gigabytes, so there's really no excuse as to why the full game could not be on disc. If you took the time to press the disc and put a portion of the game on disc, I can't see any good reason why you couldn't put the entire game on disc and offer it up to your customers.
So what I'm trying to say is that if you could fit 100 gigabytes, if a game is less than 100 gigabytes, there is no excuse for not putting it on the disc. You could put the entire thing on the disc, but yet they chose not to. They put a portion, and then you have to download a big, massive file of data, and it takes a while for a lot of people that has a slower internet connection. They don't consider that fact. It's like they don't want you to just pop in the game and play it right away. People just want to play their games. People don't want to go through long download speed. It's very anti-consumer, but they have the excuse, oh, it's to make sure that you own it or whatever, or it's just ridiculous. If an Ultra HD disc is 100 gigabytes of storage, then why not put the whole thing on the disc so they could just play it no matter what, even if they have a slow internet connection? Like, it took me over the whole night. Throughout the whole night, I had to let it download completely Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because it's over 150 gigabytes in storage. It's pretty crazy. We're gonna finish this up a little bit with this thing, and then I'll get my conclusion on this thing.
But here we are. Of course, on the Nintendo Switch 2, things are a little more complicated with the game keycards, and this is obviously something that is causing a lot of outrage amongst various people in the community. Look, at the end of the day, if you're someone that buys physical products, you may not even realize what you're getting when you pick up a Switch 2 keycard game versus a regular physical game. But when it comes to game keycards, not only do you require a pretty large download, you also will most likely require a micro SD expansion card because a lot of these games exceed the maximum capacity that Nintendo has offered with their game cards, which is 64 gigabytes. But this is not always true, and this is where I think a lot of the...
That, and also your storage is 256 gigabytes of internal storage on the Switch 2. So if you try to just download like 2 or 3 games, maybe 4 of games are a very big file. Like you put Cyberpunk there, you put Yakuza 0, you put Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and I'm pretty sure that the internal storage is gonna fill up quickly. And then you'll be required to buy an express card. Express cards are super inflated now ever since the Switch 2 came out, and that's what you really need in order to run these type of Switch 2 games these days. So yeah, as you can see here, it says only microSD express card which feature marks shown in this image are supported. Other SD cards will not work. So that's a problem with the Switch 2. They force you to do that, and that's why the prices have gone up with these express cards. It's crazy. Okay, let's finish this up, shall we?
frustration is currently at. It's unlikely that Nintendo is offering any other game cards outside of 64 gigabytes, and this has been reported by various outlets. And in the situation where there are third parties that are providing games that are far less than that 64 gigabyte size capacity, it means in order to reduce cost, they've resorted to using a game keycard, which has confused a lot of people. And although game keycards do offer you the ability to resell those games if you would choose.
By the way, Street Fighter's, I believe 6. Yeah, Street Fighter 6 is 50 gigabytes of download on your Switch 2. So that alone already takes about 30 to 40% of your internal storage on Switch 2. You remember the days when the 3DS used to offer an SD card included for free? Like included with the 3DS? Do they include a Micro Express SD card with the Switch 2 for free? Nope. You have to buy that separately. You have to spend even more money. That's why I say, like, it's less convenient for the consumers. You have to buy a lot more at an inflated price, and it's just not cheap like it used to be. Everything's gone up, honestly. So, yeah. I think I'm going to end this here. This is crazy.
Now, this is definitely something that needs to be talked about. The days of you owning any kind of physical media is slowly disappearing from you. Let's get into it. Ubisoft saying buying a game only gives players a limited license to access the game, as the Megacorp seeks to dismiss a case over 2014's The Crew being no longer playable. Now, this is why I highly encourage people to stop speaking up for these billion-dollar companies for free. It makes absolutely no sense, and you should not do it. This is absolute greed, in my opinion. Many of these video game companies, they know very well what they're doing. They should not be giving you license or keys to these video games. You should actually own the game 100% outright from the day that you purchase it. You should not have to put the game in your system and download 100 gigabytes worth of data just for you to make the game playable.
And I'm not happy about this, obviously. I'm not happy about physical video games dying. It's a concern that I have because most of my games that I have in my collection are physical. I want to be able to own something. I want to be able to like sell stuff if I don't need them anymore. Because with digital games, you can't even sell them. Once you buy it, it's stuck with you forever. You cannot pass it along. And then the limited amount of time you have to pass along a game from one Switch to another if you want to lend it to somebody is very limited and very inconvenient and all that stuff. The physical release, you can't beat that. There's no digital products out there that's gonna beat sharing physical games, selling physical games, owning it and stuff like that. It's definitely a different ballgame. I hope that more people wake up to this and they realize that they don't own the games that they buy anymore and get into, stuff that are actually gonna make you actually like the Crypto Academy and everything else. Check it out on Angry's Crypto Academy in the description below. Also check out his Rumble because there's more censorship here on this platform in YouTube, but over there in Rumble there is a lot less censorship and you can express yourself a lot better. And he gives more priority towards that. Check out my channel at Magbo Gaming if you want to check out my game collecting videos. Checking out the video game stores I plan to visit soon and the ones I visited in the past. You can check out my channel. You can check out my game discussions as well about the Switch 2 and everything else around. And I hope that everything goes well. I'll see you all in the next one. What you guys think about physical media dying, let me know in the comment section below. I hope this commentary helps some people bring awareness of the situation and spread the word of videos like these so people can be more aware of what's really going on. And I'll see you all in the next one. Magbo out. Peace.